Lynn is the panelist.
Yes, it does. For redevelopment commission. Get the Hannah Homestead off of this.
Yes.
Thanks, I'll have to move.
But we rezoned it industrial. Right?
Everyone, that's just a popular piece of property. Project master plan had you on
Yeah.
there and just.
Had a walking trail around the lake. That's, there you go, charge him.
If you need to do that, Mike, for the walking trail.
Lynn, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We got you
can.
now.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Lynn.
Hello.
I think by our next meeting, we'll have the new system set up and we'll have the projector back up and going.
On the wall.
Expand down the wall.
Mm,
So it'll make it work better.
Going pretty high tech here.
Yeah,
Be careful.
that was downloading on it today. So,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got 6 o'clock. Waiting started. Let's do a roll call to declare quorum. Start with you, Dave.
Dave Craven's here.
Craig Campbell here.
Mike Hanna here.
Lynn Mellinger here.
You. So we have a quorum, which is good. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions, changes, edits, suggestions?
No.
Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting as written?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 None opposed, motion passes, minutes approved. Old business, request for proposal, for aquatic center. Scott.
So actually, Denise should probably talk about this more because she's in the process. We've finished the final draft for the RFPQ and it's going out right now. It's going out to several firms that may be interested in it and a couple clearinghouses.
Yes.
And then we're putting it in the paper and including the Indianapolis paper. So that's going out and we'll see if we get any response. Anybody have any questions on that? Yeah, feedback? League members? Anyway, it's out to the world now. We've got till right here, the timeline. I guess we're gonna go over that. Page 5.
Scott, what did you say the timeline was?
I'm about ready to go over a little bit.
Oh, okay, all right.
It should be,
Page 8.
I'm sorry, page 8. So question for, because it's a pretty close process. The deadline for questions regarding RFP will be 1 June, and then we're gonna have 2 weeks to get them out, and then the responses are due on the 30th. Then we'll go through a review process, rank them, begin negotiations, and then if we're successful, then we'll allow them to start construction as soon as they're selected. We've got a deadline of 8/12, or not a deadline, but a beginning date of 8/12. Whenever that's complete, that negotiation's complete, then they can start. And then they've got the rest of the summer for the construction season and all the way through till May for the outdoor pool to open. And then during the summer, they can continue construction on the indoor, but we want the outdoor pool available for the summer. So we'll have the whole summer of 2023. If they get it done earlier, then that's good. The big window, that's advice of an architect because of the supply chain issues. The bigger the window, the more appealing it should be.
When did this go out?
It just started going out yesterday, or did we start today? Really?
Today, yeah,
Today.
so it's on the web today, and then go out in the paper, Herald Bulletin tomorrow and next Friday, and then coming this Monday and the following Monday will be Indiana Star, and then Times Post will have an article Thursday. We've got about 20 different architecture firms and developers that we've been recommended to send out to, and very interested. Those will go out tomorrow morning.
I think a lot of those will drop off. They're probably thinking it's design build. Once they get into it, they'll see that we're not going to be the operator owner. For the most part, it's a subsidized project. But maybe a couple of them get motivated locally and put a team together. They got plenty of time to do it.
Good. Anything else on that, Scott?
That's it.
Any questions, comments from everybody? All right. Thank you, Scott. New business TIF district cash flow.
Okay, there's a spreadsheet in front of you. A little bit of some changes have happened. Our impact fees are coming in really strong. We do expect them to drop off significantly. But they're basically been collecting about $500,000 for the first 3 months. And so the impact fees that has identified projects. And one of the projects that was identified was something that was originally budgeted using TIF money. And so since we're shifting that to impact fee, and we do have to do by law, we have 6 months to start spending that money. And so we do have a project that was already started. That was the State Road 67 NDOT project where we're adding enhancements to it. So that our minimum that we were going to pull out of TIF is going to be $600,000. So now that money will be shifted to the impact fee, and that frees up $600,000 to shift around. So if you look at the yellow, that's this year. Last year had a little bit of a negative cash flow, although your TIF balance, if you look at the bottom, still ended up with $310,000. This year, we really shouldn't have any expenditures, so you'll have a positive cash flow right down there at $113,000, which will cash deposit. You should have a positive cash flow of $192,000. Other expenditures, I'm sorry, $113,000. So that should increase the TIF fund for this year, but there's other projects mostly to do with stormwater, and I put $100,000 out over the next 2023 and 2024, more or less as markers. How that shakes out with grants and everything else that comes in, that will pretty much determine priority on which projects. So I took that, so that 600 is now spread out over 2 years for 2023, 2024. And of course, there are probably other surprises around the corner. But I wanted to get that in front of you. Let you know that that's a pretty significant change for your budget
Mhm.
on the good side.
Good.
Scott, did the improvements for 67 get approved? It's going to start this year or?
The letting has been bumped. It was supposed to start in 2023 and it's been bumped to 2024. The construction. And there's even a possibility, and this is good for us, that it gets bumped out even a little bit further. The farther it gets bumped out, the more likely we're going to get more money from.
Okay.
Or this was the last minute. They like to program out 5 years. This was the last minute add-on because NDOT forgot to tell them and us. We reacted pretty quickly. This is before I got here, but MCOG and Pendleton reacted very quickly, got themselves injected into the project. But of course, there was no money programmed. So, less than 5-year window. So the more it gets dragged out, the more possibility of us getting programmed into the MPO's budget.
Is there any state matching or funding from the state at all?
It's
Contribution?
from MCOG.
Impact, so.
Yeah, they do 80%, we do 20%.
Nice. Thank you.
It is an NDOT project. It sounds confusing, but they're adding a travel lane as it goes through Pendleton. And then so 67 will be 4 lanes once you go past Angle all the way up, and then once it hits Angle Road from the bridge at Huntsville Road is 4 lanes anyway. But so now it'll be 4 lanes starting at Madison Avenue. And so even though MCOG's paying for 80%, we're doing 20. We're also, the other nice thing about it is we're piggybacking off of DOT's project. So they pay for a lot of things that if we were solo, we would be paying for.
Thank you.
What's the impact fees are coming to an end, you say, or decreasing?
Well, just they're gonna drop off.
What, who's kicking in right now? The folks up
Yeah,
here?
Hunsinger, the Falls, and Carrigan. There's no new projects, although Hunsinger Farms goes out for another.
80,
Yeah.
90.
No, Hunsinger Farms, they said they'll be working on the other sections next year too.
Oh, yeah, in 2023, sections
Yeah.
3 and 4.
That'll be a constant stream, but there was some. I don't know why the fees were about ready to kick in, and I don't know why they waited till the fees kicked in. But that's
Good for us.
good for us.
Yeah.
It'll psych off a little bit.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Anything else on that, Scott?
No, and of course, after we get past 2023 and 2024,
Yeah.
those are the unknowns. It looks really, really positive, but that's because there's no projects assigned that far out. And 2030, that's where you see some of the revenue drop off. 2030.
Cool.
Okay.
Any questions or comments about the TIF district cash flow?
I do need, while we're on that, so due this month, we need to present you with the annual report. So that is in your packet also. We're gonna do it like we did last year. We'll have a formal presentation by Baker Tilly and help come over and go over in detail with valuation. It should pretty much reflect the cash flow spreadsheet we just looked at. But we did need to get this in front of you. So this is Karen from upstairs, Chief Deputy Clerk, her summary. Annual calendar.
When we expand our TIF district this year, will we start generating revenue the second part of next year in 2022 or?
So, yeah, that's the next thing we'll go into. We're gonna talk about the parcels and then part of that, probably kick off with Jeff talking about the process that'll happen. When we begin to see our first dollars.
Any other questions or comments about the TIF district cash flow? Hearing none, we'll go to the expansion of TIF district.
Okay, and with your questions,
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump again.
segue into this. Jeff, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, and the question was, when will we start seeing money if we expand our TIF district? The timetable you laid out, David, would be exactly right. If you can identify a parcel this year that's going to go up in value from actually be 2024 before you'd see the money. But the idea is you TIF a parcel that has a lower assessed value than it will next year, and then you get that gap the following year. So you would have to target, to get it that quickly, you have to target projects that you know there's going to be an increase in assessed value quickly, which is always what you want on new TIF parcels. If there's a parcel that lies outside your current economic development area that's on your map and in your OneDrive, that's pretty easy to do. You want to add that to the EDA, and you could TIF those parcels at the same time. Generally, what you want to do when you expand your EDA or your TIF draw, you want projects that you are certain are going to go up quickly in value, because your TIF, as you see with your drop off of 2030, that's the expiration of a TIF district that a long time ago, 17 years ago, someone had the foresight, it's earned the town a lot of money that they could use for redevelopment. But if they had started that in 1999, it would have expired 5 years sooner. So you want to make sure you don't TIF a parcel, make it part of the TIF district. That before that assessed value, you're going to have 2 or 3 years of nothing. That's 2 or 3 years you'd rather have on that long end. So parcel selection becomes important. It's not important to select parcels for the EDA. In fact, most of the community, not most, at least 3 of the communities in Madison County have named their entire municipal limits as the EDA. Because why that is somewhat of an advantage is that you are only permitted to use TIF funding to assist this part of the town. If it's, well, we want to use TIF for something that's right there, it's not permitted under the State Board of Accounts.
Is our whole town?
No. This is it. So now that requires public hearings. There is sometimes some pushback on, what do you mean my house is in an economic development area that need of redevelopment? Well, that's just a term. It doesn't mean you're living in a depressed area or distressed area. I've seen absolutely no evidence that has any effect on property values or who your neighbor is or anything like that. So there is a little bit of pushback sometimes on that, but even areas that you know would never be TIF eligible, residential, you can't TIF that except very rare circumstances. You could still use TIF dollars for roads, things like that. Now the impact fee will start taking care of that. But if there's a redevelopment project in an area that's in your economic development area, doesn't matter if it's TIFed or not, you can use TIF funds for it. So your TIF funding is, I think you want to be, and again, this is not something that Larry Davis, I think, works pretty quick in the assessor's office, but he doesn't leap out of his chair when a building permit is pulled and reassess it immediately. I tell people, generally, you've got between 6 months to 18 months to get that, run it through the process to get it in the TIF. So, because it takes him at least a year. But, you know, I think that parcels that you anticipate there's going to be growth, it would be time to add those to an economic development area. If you know there's going to be something in there immediately, EDA and TIF. But hold your horses as long as you can on the TIF.
So what about doing parcel at a time? I mean, we spread this out,
Sure.
so we could, in theory, end up with 20 EDAs, right?
Yes, although you could add parcels to your existing EDA.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah,
do they have to be continuous?
no,
Okay.
you're not.
But we have on average, correct me if I'm wrong, approximately 4 meetings to establish a TIF district.
It goes this body, plan commission, council, back to this body. Yeah. And they do have to touch.
But if we add to an old one, it's already got its timeline started. So,
That's TIF, but the EDA is forever.
but yeah, but I mean, so if you, so if you attach it to a tip that's already existing, and that timeline started, it adopts that same timeline. So if 3 years have already been burned, it's only gonna be 17 years long.
TIF though is parcel by parcel. So your EDA can outlast the 25 years. So let's say we only had one EDA in the whole town. And we had a parcel that someone was going to put a medical facility in there, or a medical device facility. And we're churning TIF on that for 10 years. And then right next to it, there's another parcel and they're going to do something else. They expand the medical device to include another parcel. You can grab that, put it in the EDA, then for 15 years, you'll have both of them churning. Then the other one will shut down and you'll still churn this one for the end of its life. So the EDA is forever. The TIF for the parcel you only get for, now it's 20 years. It was 25 when they created that one back in 05.
What's our current economic development area?
Well,
It's
Is it
this.
the blue part on this map?
Yes. Yes.
so is that the same up there? I can't.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, we've only got one out of this. I think there's only one parcel that's about ready to see activity, and that's the one that touches 13, and that's the boat storage. So they're initially going to be a boat storage, and then eventually they're going to do maybe boat sales from it. But right now, it's just going to be a boat storage area. So the assessed value is going to go up, but it's not going to be storage. So
So the business, you'll capture 3% of the difference. Per year though, for 20 years.
yeah. Well, eventually, then that's 20 years they'll do another.
I was gonna say, if they grow the business.
Right. They're gonna grow it.
Yeah. Pull another
Just
parcel.
directly north of 69 on
No, I mean, it could
13.
be 20.
I think it's right
So,
beside it.
given our situation, what would be your advice on? So these are the parcels that are identified non-residential, that are in corridors where there'll probably be development.
Jeff,
Well,
before you,
actually, most of them are zoned agricultural right now.
before you answer it, Jeff. In the minutes of the last meeting, you all discussed, you and Hannah, we're gonna go through these suggested TIF, the yellow, make sure they're all good. Are they all?
Yeah, we went through it and based on your comments. So.
So let me ask you another question. This isn't the entirety of what TIF could be. These are currently suggested areas that would make good TIF district. There are probably others as the future comes along and roads get put in and.
Oh, yeah. So, but most likely, along the major transportation areas is where where you're gonna have non-residential
Right.
parcels, or at least some of the larger parcels will be chopped off. Residential.
And I know it's gonna be a long way down the road, but the projected growth out on the other side of 69 would
And
become TIF.
Right.
Yeah.
And then at 67th Street also.
Right.
And that's gonna be the biggest one, but it is not.
So what I'm hearing you say, Jeff, is be very strategic.
With
Yeah.
TIF.
These have all been recognized as
Yep.
possible TIF areas. Be very strategic on which one we TIF.
We TIF. Now you can add them to your EDA. Make them, so they're in the blue hash mark area. Doesn't mean they're TIFed. It means they're in the EDA. And so they are, you've checked off a prerequisite for TIF by putting them in the EDA.
Gotcha.
And that's, but you can do that all at the same time. The advantage again to the EDA is that's the area where you can spend TIF funds, even if it's not TIF. So,
And the one pure what the law was originally intended to be is actually the boat storage, because there is no utilities out there. And that originally was TIF was for extending utilities to areas, so.
or the free market would never provide the capital necessary,
Right.
and it wouldn't in this case. That's only, it's gonna take the help, a little nudge.
Or are we of a mind to bring all these proposed TIF areas into the EDA, add them to the EDA? And if so, what does that process?
Same thing as the TIF.
4 meetings?
Yep.
and we do-
And then when the time is right, we can switch them over to TIF.
Yep.
That way we get the full term of revenue.
When needed, when it's financially
Yeah.
in our favor to do so.
Right.
So, your advice is that we just, EDA for right now.
That requires a public hearing at this body. But again, I've never seen a significant resistance to that kind of thing.
So why? Anybody was here, why did we not do the whole county?
I don't know.
Good question.
Now, it does appear that, the vision that, and you've talked about this, Scott, is having the different, the downtown kind of preserved and then the commerce on each side. It looks like it reflects that when they put this together. But it's not the end of the world that it wasn't done, because we only have the forms, it's cut and paste, and we'll send it to you guys and we'll be.
So what are the other communities that have gone, the whole community is?
Alec, Elwood, and LaPel.
Alec, Elwood, and LaPel. I always wondered why we did. Do you know, Craig?
I don't. We didn't, the EDA talk is really kind of fresh. We may have spoken of it the last time we expanded the TIF district, but that was not the emphasis for doing so.
I have noticed in reviewing this, and of course, there are good reasons for doing it, but it seems to me, and Scott was even a little bit confused about it because of this when he joined us. But there's the terms EDA and TIF district have been intermixed.
Yeah.
They're different.
They're
And
different.
this is even called the Pendleton EDA 1, and that's fine. But technically, the statute calls them EDAs is the general, TIF is the specific. Yeah. So,
There was a great rush to do many things
oh, I'm sure.
previously, and it was a little roughshod.
And when you look at it, it says you have to declare areas that are in need, economically distressed areas in need of redevelopment.
Yeah.
Well, our downtown doesn't need that. Well, I can understand that.
Actually,
But
it does.
Like everywhere does. The Mother Nature's vicious. Everything always needs rebuilt.
They
So
got the same pushback on Okra when we did the Main Street. So many of these building owners said, "But my building is distressed. I'm not gonna sign that to say. my
please let
building."
us help you.
Yeah.
As a civil engineer, I will tell you, every building
It's
in this
distressed.
downtown area is structurally not optimal.
Yeah,
Can I put it diplomatically that way?
yes.
In fact, I would not put them in a good category. I would put it in the poor category. I can't, except for even this building has got some issues.
Yeah.
I mean, the wall is bowing out. Maybe insurance building, used to be the Fountain Savings and Loan, is structurally in good shape. But I would guess almost every building here has, there's a reason trucks were stopped, not only because it was a safety issue, but it was hard. The buildings couldn't handle the shakiness that was the
Right.
instability of the ground when the trucks went through. And then infrastructure wise, you know, when I first got here, there wasn't a major stormwater line that wasn't collapsed or flood. The roads, they're unique in the fact that because they are so old, they're solid, but as soon as something happens to them, they crumble. Franklin Street is a classic example. The borings that came through pretty good, but as soon as they opened it up, it was a domino effect and the whole street just deteriorated. That's because it was been, you know, going back to the days of the horses compacting the ground, it was very, very well compacted, except it was very thin. So as soon as they cracked that, there was no stability, and that the whole town is sure like that. So the roads are not category. This is the downtown, the old area. Definitely not electrical. Got poles that we're just replacing as we just have to. Sanitary is good, but that's not ours. Stormwater is an issue everywhere. Water is especially an issue everywhere.
Water meaning,
The water mains.
really,
Oh, yeah, I don't think we have any water mains that I would put in healthy condition. I would say they're all or worse. 100% of our water mains downtown. Can't afford to do anything.
probably no different than most towns. All right, so what's the next step?
Well, we can certainly add the parcels identified by Scott to the EDA. You guys would like to start that process, take a look at it at the next meeting, and if you like it, we'll notice it for the June meeting start the process and have it done in August.
Could maybe what we do is actually have a discussion whether we do the whole town. And Baker Tilly's gonna be here next week, maybe, or next month, maybe we take advantage of their experience and ask them about that strategy. What are the pluses and minuses? Have the other towns that have done this, have they found any negative effects?
The only negative effect I could think of right now is that by doing it now, I think you have to give notice to everybody in town.
You have to mail.
When you create the thing originally, it's general, and so you just do one. That's the only problem I see. and it kind of backtrack a little bit. One of the advantage to having the downtown in the economic development area would be is you could use TIF funds to acquire buildings that would be in a state of horrendous disrepair that nobody wanted to touch. And this is not sexy to do, that nobody really enjoys this. If there would be a parcel in the town that would be an environmental concern, this body can take possession of that thing and clean it up. It would have the only ability to clean it up, other than like legacy insurance. Well, otherwise, the thing could be a growing environmental problem. If you had a lead or something like that that was put in the ground 100 years ago, those chemicals will spread, and nope, the market will never see to it that that's cleaned up ever. But a city or town, TIF, you can use that money to go after legacy insurance, things of that nature. So there's all kinds of advantages. That's not fun to do, but sometimes if it means cleaning up the town, that's one of the roles that we do as government.
But I'd like your thought process with be able to have the flexibility to buy a building like that, so you can control the customer mix through here. If you're trying to keep economic development and keep drawing people in town, we have the need to mix. What do we offer downtown? And that may be a way then you can market it to those businesses that offer that type of service.
That's exactly right.
Of course, we
Dave.
don't want to get in the real estate business, but still.
That's exactly right, David. You could, what you can do is you can, the town can't do this. The council can't do it if it's in the name of the civil city. But you could decide you want a shoe store over there, and your offering sheet can be, it has to be a national shoe store. That you could.
I would say that one company, formerly that did our development projections, they probably have a study already what is needed downtown, and that's want to draw people in. We've already paid for that study.
Scott, could you, if you have the time, I know you guys are busy, you suppose, but and maybe it's too early to even talk about it, but I wonder if you talk to the town people at like LaPel and wherever the other one was, and say, how's it going? If you did this, have you seen any negative effects? Have you? Is it too early? Because this is
Well,
pretty recent.
LaPel's brand
Yeah.
new, but Alex has been around since about 05. It serves what they need it to do. Elwood is a monster. That thing spurns off more than we do.
Really?
Well, they have an industrial base, and Elsa up there is expanding, so they lasso those.
Right.
But it's a. Let me find out about the notice thing, because if there's not the notice problem, then that would be significant. That would be expensive.
We put it in our bill.
Probably.
Thank you, Mike.
But I don't see a downside to having everything in the EDA. I really don't. Other than my property's in an economic just development area. So that means we can help you.
Well, I mean, the infrastructure is. And we do have some buildings. We are gonna have some buildings that are gonna come down that need to be in that TIF district. So that's how else we got. We end up having those buildings, the town ends up with those buildings. But there's no mechanism right now to do it.
Because it's not in your economic development area.
That's very concerning to me.
Yeah, especially right now. Is that, I can't see that map very well. Is that, it just goes down down State Street through town?
Here's Scott.
It doesn't branch out.
It does a little bit there.
Yeah.
I don't know where you guys got this for, it's a great map.
It came off for GIS. So. Yeah, it's, okay, I think our building in question is on here.
Thank goodness. I just think that, and this is not my committee, but just sitting here having this conversation, I feel like I'm not understanding the downside to having more flexibility to spend those dollars, especially when you're dealing with aging infrastructure throughout the part of the town that we want so desperately to protect.
Get no pushback from me on this. I think it's a good idea. You'll get some pushback from building owners because of, I don't want to be listed in an economic.
Do we have to state, is that part of the notice?
Yeah,
There's a set notice that you have to.
You gotta do that. And they argued it for Main Street and then everybody went with it when they saw the money they were gonna get to fix the building.
So explain that to me a little bit. So what happened with Main Street?
Well, the Oak Grove grant that came through is called Main Street Pendleton, whatever, they formed it. And when they did the presentation, it was, oh, your building's gonna be in a distressed area. And they said, many of the building owners said, my building's not distressed, I don't want it listed as such. And they fought it for a long time, but when they figured out finally they could get the help to fix up the facades of their buildings, they went.
So let me ask this, was it concerned because of marketing when they went to sell the building?
Yes,
But it's a whole town.
I know.
And
It'll
That
work.
gives you cover.
It'll work. But
It
You're,
gives you cover.
you're gonna have the headache of
Yeah.
telling these people it'll be okay.
Their buildings aren't gonna have much value if you don't have the right infrastructure of lighting and
Right.
sanitation and sewer anyway.
And if you're identified as an economic development area, or, I mean, Jeff, do you know if there's additional grants or things, resources that we could get these
Sure.
business owners to kind of soften the blow of being marketed, or not marketed, but labeled as distressed?
And they're also eligible for tax, what do you call
I don't know, they,
Exemptions or?
it? No, what do you call it when you ask for not a deferral? The 10-year thing that runs off.
abatement.
Abatement, yeah, you can, tax abatements have to be in economic development areas.
Yeah.
If I put a new business in downtown and I want a, not on State Street, but outside these blue areas, if you want a tax abatement, you're out.
So the only place we probably want a donut hole is Foster's. Right?
I think that's a double.
I was thinking that, no.
Yeah, we don't need anything. We have no water.
Your water, you have good water, your road, your main road is.
My main roads, my neighborhood roads, all the things.
Well, neighborhood roads are fine. 600 West is not.
Street signs.
Yeah, well, that's good. You gotta work with that.
I think we're echoing the same thing, that flexibility, what's the downside to it?
I agree with Scott. Anything involving the redevelopment areas, always like to get the financial advisor's opinion. If they say, oh my God, Jeff, don't do that, you'll do this.
Absolutely.
I've run into that before. But I wish it had set up like it was from the
Yeah,
beginning.
I personally, before I came here, I thought it was.
But I'll be-
We're fixing old problems. We'll move forward.
And this is not a hard fix, I don't
Yeah.
believe.
You'll have to do some convincing. I have every faith in you.
It's not
Yeah,
much.
and the new areas, I mean, it's sort of. poetic. So the old areas where the roads have been here forever, and the infrastructure's here. It's aged. You go out to where the new development is gonna be. All the major roads are just thin little county roads. And so even in the new areas, even though we put up a subdivision that's 3 years old, the road 600 west that feeds into it, you know, it's too narrow, it's too thin,
And they're in terrible shape.
and they're in terrible shape, and we do have stormwater issues out there. Right?
Yes.
You want to see it for real, go riding with me sometime.
Oh, yeah.
My God.
And I think Pelham is a little different animal than LaPel and Ellick and Elwood. Elwood's a little bit different itself, but just they're different animal and different beasts, especially the corridor of 69 here. The traffic you get through here and this, I mean, your traffic count through here is probably what? 20,000 a day. I bet it's 20 to 25,
Wow, it is.
you know, and that's, and if you start comparing that to 53rd Street is like 28 to 29,000.
Well, our 67 corridor is very fine. It's number 2 in the
number 2 in the county. Yeah. I think we're moving in a positive direction.
To answer your question, most work is right by you.
Oh, okay. I know there was some infrastructure out there with the gas lines too.
That's the only one I think that we wanted to. Is that nothing right away? That's the only. Is there a parallel? Can we do anything in parallel?
Yes, oh, yeah. We might as well go ahead, if you think that one's definitely going to go up, we'll go ahead and grab it. If that's what the redevelopment commission would like to do.
Well, it's been 4 to have. So we live like to put this in the bills because it goes to every address.
I
But
think
it has to go to the owner.
it has to be sent certified mailing too. Because we had sent the utility bills that way.
Yeah, we could.
Let me find out for sure that there's not a way to create a general notice. Yeah.
Do you,
How would this
How we do it?
affect? Go ahead.
No, 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 you go ahead.
How would this affect if we did? Jurisdiction?
You'd have to add that later after you have that jurisdiction.
But we can go into that jurisdiction with this. That's very.
If you have planning.
if you sent notices out, do you maybe do a general explanation of what it means?
Yeah, you
Or
can.
do you open up a can of worms for more questions and
Oh, you
stuff?
mean by stating that it's an economic.
Well, and then but give a general explanation of what this really does mean versus them thinking that it's the dark black shadow, but, and I don't know if it may create, you get 100 more phone calls. I don't know.
It'll have to be,
Don't bring attention to it.
it'll have to be
Yeah.
very carefully worded.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, this sort of sounds like a tangent, but it's really not. You know, even Carmel's 50% free and reduced lunch.
There
Even Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
So
you go.
Indiana, I think, has gotten used to the fact that a lot of residents are. Hoosiers have gotten used to the fact that.
The Red Gold corporate headquarters at Elwood is in an economic development area.
Dave makes a good point. If worded correctly, give definitions of things, I think. Most people will say, oh, who cares? Some will
Yeah,
say,
so
wait a minute.
Unless it's a real prescriptive notice, is it state laws notice real prescriptive? I mean, is it outlined word for word?
Our planning law says it has to be certified mail.
No, but I mean, how the notice is worded.
Yeah, there's certain requirements, but there's nothing wrong. There would be nothing against putting a little postcard inside that said, what does this mean?
Here's what this means.
Yeah. Sign.
And I think if you, because of our historic aged infrastructure.
Oh, geez.
See, he's starting.
Tell the
on
guy who won elections.
that. That's good, man.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm serious.
I'm with you. That's good. And that's what it's gonna require, something like that.
Because of the historic nature.
Yeah,
To be able to do these things the right way.
it's almost written, it writes itself.
I'm sure there's probably a certain criteria, a few items that you gotta make sure that you put in there or something like that, probably.
All it really has to say is it has to reference the statute, say what the district resulting will be. Say you have an opportunity to be heard at the redevelopment commission meeting, and
There you go.
send in written comments if you prefer. It's really not that, it's not that bad, except it will have the danger word. Your parcel is being considered to be put in economic development. Well, that doesn't sound that bad to me, but
Yeah, but it sounds like, to just a random homeowner, it could sound alarming.
they're coming for my
Well, they're gonna
property.
zone me commercial and what I can do, or, you know.
Oh, yeah, you get all kinds.
All
of
depends what you
things.
think, your definition of economic development.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, let's do, we'll bring Baker Tilly in and he gives a report and we'll focus in and hopefully shed some light, maybe we can.
This would be good. The RDA and the
Yeah.
economic development will be with us. so.
Yeah. And then Plus, that'll give us some time. Talk to the other 80% of the town council.
Marissa.
No, I'll just say, because you weren't there, but she was. Because she was doing her homework. You weren't.
I like that.
All right. Cool.
That's the only one.
Anything else on this from anybody? Lynn, you good?
Good.
Excellent. One note before we adjourn, Dave, you got anything else?
No, sir.
Scott? I got approached by Ken. I would space his last name, man. The guy from McKinley Horn. Riverside, thank you. He sent me an email. He wants to meet. He wanted to meet with me. He's got a couple guys coming who might be interested in the technology, creating a technology business here in our technology center that we designated in the I-69 thing. And so I said, yeah, sure, let's meet. But I brought Dan in with me. I asked Dan if he would be with us on this because he's the financial genius. And so I didn't want to have the whole RDC there because then it's a meeting and then we got to have a public thing. It's probably going to be I hope it's not what we had before where they want to build a shell building. That I don't think it's that. And Dan said he worked with one guy on several projects, so he knows one of them. But we'll find out what it is and we'll bring it back to the RDC either via email or in June or in May. And we'll let you know what's going on. We're meeting on the what is it? 18th and 19th, something like that. So I'll keep you posted. All right, anything else? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Cool. All in favor?
Aye.
Give me an eye, Lynn.
aye.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hearing no opposition, meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. See you, Lynn.
Have a good one.
You too.
Looks like she's going off.